Hi, my name's Jim, and I'm still making this baseball game. So right now, I'm still working on drawing the pitcher. So in the last video, this is just an extension of, it's just that I only have 15 minutes per video, we drew this nice circle on top of the pitcher's mound. When we're playing a game, we're not really going to play with a circle as a pitcher. We don't really like that. This was just to show you that we can locate the circle where we want to locate it on the screen using feet and the scaling that we've already done. So that's what I want to do now. Is I want to use that scaling to draw this picture right here. Okay. You'll notice that this picture's got everything in relative positions. These are all relative to the height. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. Right. So when I draw this frame, which is how I want you to draw things, right? I want you to draw everything up until like the last week of class. You're going to actually draw things out using vector graphics, right? And this is just to make sure that you keep getting used to using the coordinates on the screen and using the coordinates of things in real life and scaling them and things like that, so that you really understand the positions on the screen. After you're done with this class, you're not going to have to do that anymore. Just go ahead and use sprites or whatever and make sure they're in the right place. And you'll be able to figure all that out pretty easily by the end of the class. All right, so what we want to do is we want to start drawing this guy in the first frame of my baseball player. And this code will do that, right? It's just there's nothing in here right now. Right now it calls the frame 1 method right down here, and then it does nothing. It says, I don't want to do anything. Thanks for coming. We want it to do something, right? And we want to do it. We want it to draw on this screen, right, from the center of the baseball player, which is this cross, blue cross right here, and relative to the height of the player. So everything's going to be relative to the height of the player in this. And like I said, that's what all of these numbers are, right? So the center of his head is at 0 minus 0.3. So it's minus 0.3 going upwards. Remember, when you draw something on the computer, the upper left-hand corner, which is this guy, I think. Maybe it's that guy for you. That upper left-hand corner is 0, 0. And then it goes downwards and rightwards. All right. And so, that's how I've labeled this stuff down here, and that's how I've labeled all of these points. And we went through all that in the video. So I want to use this position here to be the center of a circle for the guy's head. So let's try to draw that using this height, because that's 0.3 is 0.3% of, or is 30% of the man's height, of the pitcher's height. So, at that point, we want to have PG draw circle. It's going to draw to the screen, all right? It's going to have a color, and this guy looks orange, and we want it to color different from yellow, so we'll make him orange. We'll have an orange pitcher. Then we need a position, and that position will be x0, y0. And we need a radius, and we'll have that r0. So everything that goes along with the center of this guy's head, this big circle here, is going to have the subscript 0. So now we have to figure out where those things are. So x0 is starting from the center, right? So starting from the x-coordinate of the center, 0 is the x-coordinate. Starting from there, we add on minus 0.3 times the height. Or actually, that part's for the y, so I'll do that. So x0 is 0, actually. So x0 is at the same spot as the center. So that's CTR0. Okay, so those things are the same. Probably the center is probably already a integer instead of a floating point number. But this guy definitely is not. The y part is not. The height is not. I made sure of that. So we better do that. And R0 in this case is the height of the guy. times 0.1, so that's the radius, right? And the double zeros won't hurt, but there's no reason to keep that on. So let's see if I've blown anything up. I did blow something up, and I'm not sure what. So let me see what I blew up. I wrote the wrong name. Oh, IB4E except after C. Except and in A as neighbor and way. Okay, so that's height, EI. All right, so there we go. We've got a little orange head right there. It's a little low. Why is he a little low? Well, he's a little low because, remember, this circle was drawn with 0.5 as, or with the center being in the direct center of the circle. This guy has the center a little bit off. So actually the picture when we draw him is going to be penetrating a little bit in here, and at the very end I'm going to have to shift him off a little bit. Let's see how much of this I can actually do before I have to stop and do it offline and add in a little bit at the end. All right. So now we've got that. What other things do we do? Well, first I'm going to give him a little room there. Then I want x1 equal to, let's make the brim here. So we have integer part of the center, the x position of the center over here, which is minus 0.15. So minus 0.15 times the height. And y1 is equal to the integer part of the center y. Actually, this is level with the other one, so y1 can be equal to y0. And x2 is the opposite side, so that's the integer part of the center 0 plus 0.1 times the height. Okay, that's fine. And y2 equals y0. Probably if I were doing this by myself, I wouldn't worry about changing those things, although it might come in handy later. We need a line, PG draw line. Then we need screen. We want it to remain orange. And we want it to start at x1, y1, and go to x2, y2, and we want it to be 2 pixels wide. Okay, so let's see what I get when I draw that. Oh, it looks like I've got something sort of like that. In this guy, it looks like the hat's a little bit too large, but you know, I guess we can live with it. All right, so that's the first line. Now we can draw this stick for a body, right? So where do we say this neck is? The neck point here is 0 and minus 0.2. So the x is 0. So x3. I don't have to change these variable names. No, I don't have to change these variable names, so let's not. That's the easiest way to do it. And so then we have the integer part of center 1 minus 0.2 this time times the height. And so x2, we have minus 0.5, so 0.05, excuse me, for x2, and y2 is something much larger. Probably should have just, yeah, don't like laptops. All right, and then this plus 0.18. Actually, I'm going to use this y2 a lot, so that number I want to save. So now when I run it, something didn't work. Okay, so it looks like it didn't go all the way down. Why wouldn't it? Oh. So let's look at that again. And so he's got a little bit of this line here. Now he needs a couple of legs, right? The legs I've got here and here, and they can both use these this x2, right? So why don't I do x1 as minus 0.15 times the height, and y1 is 0.6, right? Plus 0.6. And I'll change these to 3's, and this guy can just be equal to y1, and this guy is plus 0.15. Okay, so that looks more symmetric than probably it should be. So let's get rid of that symmetry and say that everything's been shifted off by that amount. I still think that's going to look a little bit funny, but that's okay because things are allowed to look funny. So both of these use x2, so one's x3, y3, function f5. Now I've got the legs. All right. So I think what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to shut off for just a second, finish out all these other little numbers because there are a lot of little details here. It's going to take a lot of time, but I can just stop for a second and finish things up. It's just a lot more of this, drawing a lot of lines. It's not really going to improve anything for you to actually see me doing anymore. But after that, I'm going to shift this guy up a little bit. When I'm going to change his position so he shifts up a little bit and he stands exactly on top of the pitcher's mound. And I'll come back and do that in just a moment. Okay, so I finished that up. You see there's a lot of stuff in there. Looks a little bit like a guy. All right, so first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this circle and then I want to move him up. All right, after that, we'll be done. So let's see, how do I get rid of the circle? Well, I delete the thing that says draw the circle in the definition there. And let's see, did that do it? Oh, look, I've just got a guy who's somehow embedded in the pitcher's mound. Let's get him out of there. Let's save him just a little bit. And so how do I do that? Well, remember that when I decided the position of the guy, I said the position where he was going to be drawn from was at the center, halfway between the top and the bottom of the guy. That's where this is, right? Well, that center is actually right here. All right. So what we want to do is we want to lift him up just a little bit, I think. So to do that, rather than divide by 2, we want to multiply by 0.6, I think. 0.6 down here. And I think if I do that, it's going to turn out right. Let's see real quick. There we go. We've got our pitcher on top of the pitcher's mound. He's ready to throw. So next we have to think about, how do I draw him throwing? So what sort of things do I have to do? How do I make it animate a little bit? We don't want a whole lot of animation, just a little bit to make it look like there's been a throw so that the guy who's going to hit the ball has some idea about what's going on. So we'll look at that in just a second, or in a couple of videos here. But until then, just play around with some of this stuff and I think you'll be all right. Nice talking to you. I'll see you again soon.